And so beautiful. Good morning, everyone. How are you? We had a lot of kids this morning. How exciting. If you have your bulletin or your worship folder or the thing they hand you when you come in, our scriptures are on page 3. And I'm just going to read one verse from the first scripture reading in Isaiah. And then I'm going to ask if there's a brave soul who has been given the gift of reading who would dare to read Psalm 84, 5 through 7. Okay, so be thinking, be gathering up your courage. In Isaiah 7, verse 14, it says, "Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Look, the young woman is with child and shall bear a son and shall call his name Emmanuel." Do I have a taker for Psalm 84? Yes, I love it. Wait, stop. People online can't hear you.
Happy are those whose strength is in you and whose heart are the highways to Zion. As they go through the valley of Becca and they make a place of the springs, the early rain also covers it with pools. They go from strength to strength. The God of gods will be seen in Zion.
Thank you so much. This morning, I was hoping there would be less men in the church because everyone's working at the pancake breakfast, but I see you brought in reinforcements. And I'm happy you're here. I'm happy to be in a church where there are so many men coming to Sunday morning worship. That is not the case in every church. But since I thought a lot of the men would be in the kitchen or in fellowship hall serving food, remember Pastor asked the other Sunday for you to ask someone beside you, what was your favorite Christmas movie? Remember? And then what was your least favorite? Well, if I were to ask my mom, she'd say, anything on the Hallmark Channel during Christmas. Oh my goodness. She is all about those movies. So if there are any Hallmark Channel Christmas romance movie fans out there, this one's for you. Kinda. But before I get into it, let me go over the portion of Psalm that Donna read for us. It says, "Happy are those whose strength is in you, in whose heart are the highways to Zion." This is a psalm that talks about pilgrimage, going to worship. Highways to Zion is a pilgrimage to go worship God. So those whose heart is intent and focused on God and worship of God. Verse 6, "As they go through the valley of Baca," not Chewbacca, okay, I had to say it, "of Baca, they make it a place of springs. The early rain also covers it with pools." So what is the valley of Baca? So the valley of Baca, Baca translated from the Hebrew means weeping. And this could be a literal and a figurative weeping, because there are areas, there are valleys where there are balsam trees which ooze out sap, and it looks like there are tears on the bark of the tree. And so they would call them weeping trees. And so it could be that you're literally going through a valley of weeping trees as you're on your way to worship God or seeking God. But it also can mean those times in our life which are literally valleys of weeping and crying and darkness and sadness. And so, on that note, I'm going to go into my Hallmark Christmas romance movie of a life. Now, in first service, I made the clarification, and I'm like, I know that some might belong to that generation where pastors were like these holy people who did holy things and lived this life that is, just dedicated to God and just they're perfect. They're like on a pedestal. But I know that for many of us, we appreciate when people who are in leadership, especially within the church, are just real people. And so what I'm going to share with you was a very real and raw moment in my life. And so here we go. How many of you watched The Golden Girls? Okay, yeah. So there's the little old lady who always says, picture it, right? It was Sicily, right? All right, so those of you who know, those of you who don't, get with the program. The Golden Girls is literally golden. All right, so picture it. It's the year 2005 in Calabria, Italy. I'm single, I'm successful, and I'm 33. I had joked about being 33 for a long time because I said that just the way Jesus sacrificed his life, he sacrificed his life when he was 33, I would consider getting married, which would equal sacrificing my life. There's a reason he left at 33. And so we're in Calabria, Italy, and we're getting ready for dinner, and my beloved father informs me he's invited someone to have dinner with us. The gentleman arrives with flowers for my mother and I, these Italian guys. Conversation is lively, of course, Hispanics and Italianos, hello. And we are taking jabs at each other the whole meal, and I realize my father was trying to set us up. How dare he? So I'm being extra smarty pants and smarty Alec with this guy. Where in the world and how in the world did my father find this Argentinian, Italian, Pentecostal, Jewish, emergency flight physician / surgeon who also happened to be the medical director of the entire region of Italy we were in? And single. I could not believe my dad was trying to pull this one on me. As we said our goodbyes, my father told him with mischief in his eyes, "You're a dead man." Almost 2 years went by, texting, calling, writing, emailing, visiting one another, and MSN messaging. You guys remember MSN Messenger? That was way before social media and all that stuff. Confirmations came and were spoken to him and to me on separate continents. We learned so much. We grew spiritually together. And I was pretty sure that I had found my soulmate and love of my life. Then the diagnosis arrived. It's a movie, I tell you, and it happened for real. He had a spot, a tumor on his lung, and needed emergency surgery. There's nothing worse than a surgeon going under the knife, believe me. He was complaining the whole time. I grabbed the first plane to Rome that I could from Puerto Rico, then took a train to Reggio Calabria to be by his side. The surgery took place in Milan. Doesn't this sound like glamorous? Wasn't. Okay. The surgery took place in Milan, and they removed half a lung. However, a dramatic plot twist ended up with me leaving, feeling as if I had had my heart surgically removed, as well as my hopes, and without anesthesia. I returned to Puerto Rico, but only a shadow of myself. In the following months, I dropped a considerable amount of weight. I was not in the hundreds. I spiraled into a deep pit of despair, anger, outrage, and fury. I was a full-time associate pastor of the largest English-speaking church in Puerto Rico. I was a part-time teacher at one of the most elite Christian private schools on the island. I had bought my own house because I was sure I was going to be single, so I might as well take care of myself. Everything was going my way until then. I spent hours on the floor, clinging to the tufts of the area rug in my living room in the house that I bought because I was going to be single, screaming, crying, and looking up only to raise my fist at God to accuse him of my pain. After all, I had waited faithfully. Y'all know true love waits, all that stuff. I had served him with all I had and all I was. I trusted him. And I taught others to trust him too. I thought I was going to finally have my happily ever after. I had lived a full life. My ministry had reached thousands of people by now. I had spent myself for the Lord. I had also become very self-sufficient and somewhat spiritually proud. So after dealing with this darkness for a while, I picked up the phone one day and called my father because I felt he could handle it. I informed him that I was content with all I had done in my life to this point and that I was ready to end it. I may have mentioned the paperwork, the house, and some other logistics that needed to happen in order for this to be a smooth transition, and how I needed him to be logical and help my mother, who was going to be illogical and extremely emotional once this happened. I was very matter of fact and asked him to please understand and not to get too emotional and not try to talk me out of it. I was ready. He was amazingly calm and almost understanding. We both share a pretty stoic view about death, so that's why I felt comfortable talking with him. He knew I called him out of respect and to prepare him for what was about to happen. But then he decided to ask me for a final last wish. Isn't that the position of the person who's leaving? But no, he said, could you please give me one last wish? He asked that I go to a psychiatrist and tell them my intention, and then tell them I'm a pastor, I've heard it all, and that I knew exactly what I was going to do, how I was going to do it, and when I was going to do it, and tell them straight out, I don't want to talk. I just need help. I have talked so many people off the ledge, literally holding their hands and pulling them away from harming themselves. Therefore, I knew what counselors, pastors, psychologists, and even I would say if someone were in this situation. But at this moment, I had no time for it. I was done. I wasn't having it at all. I was ready. But to honor my father, whom I really respect so much, one last time, I decided to do what he asked. Mind you, I was not about all the medication and counseling and talking. I am the suck it up buttercup kind of person. But I went, and then the psychiatrist asked me for one last wish. And she said, just give me 3 months. Give me 3 months to see if this medication would help. Medication? Me? I'd rather, end it all, but I promised my dad. And so my father, again, asked me, could you please try it? And then you can do whatever you want. And so I agreed. So in those 3 months, things became clearer. I started to heal a little bit. There were faint glimpses of hope and glimmers of hope shining through the fog, the anger, the disappointment of my situation. I decided to give it a try and stick around for a little bit more. You see, while I was in this valley, I lost sight. I was preaching still. I was teaching. and I was hurting. I was self-absorbed in my pain and disappointment to the point where I didn't even look up to God if it wasn't in anger. You know, in a recent interview, somebody asked me, "Why do you smile so much? And where do you get all this energy?" To which I responded, "What's the alternative?" I know what the alternative was. And thanks be to God, I did not take it. My situation might be quite petty compared to some of your pain right now, some of your dark valleys, your uncertainty. It might seem like not that much, like, why did you make it so much? But for me, it was kind of that one thing I had asked God for, and it fell through. I was angry, I was hurt, and I wasn't looking to the one thing that could help me and heal me. God with us, Jesus, who knew, had been there, and was loving me even if I was screaming at him. I was in the deepest shoal. I remember now Psalm 56:8 that says, "You kept count of my tears, of my tossing." Have you ever been at that place where you're tossing and turning? You can't sleep at all because that thing is just gnawing at you and taking away your peace. You put my tears in your bottle. And I'm sorry, God, if I overflowed and kind of flooded heaven with my tears. But he knows. He sees. He's with us, even when we feel we are going through the valley of the shadow of death. And as I look back, I know now that God was with me every moment. Even when I was angry, when I was screaming, when I was accusing him, he never left my side. He did do some things in this process. He humbled me and let me know I'm not as strong as I believe I am. Number 2, he helped me empathize with others in pain. I'm the walk it off, it'll be okay, stop whining person. He helped me realize that he can use medicine and doctors, except for one in Italy, to bring help and healing. I have a new appreciation for life and a new way of accepting difficulties. I can see now that he was with me on the mountaintops, which were many. I think I got spoiled because it was like so many success and happy and joyful moments in my life. And he was also with me in that valley. You see, Jesus knows. He's been there. He came here. He experienced pain, loss, grief. John 16:33 says something that's not really popular with those who preach that everything is going to be perfect when you become a Christian. It is Jesus himself saying, "I have said these things to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation." In other words, it is normal. We're all going to go through valleys of tears. We will have tribulation. Jesus is warning us and telling us, you will have tribulation. But take heart, I have overcome the world. My grandmother, towards the end of her life, was attending a Pentecostal church. And she always would be singing hymns. And one of the things that I loved about, at least in Puerto Rico, the Pentecostal churches, is their choruses were direct scriptures. And one of the ones that she would sing a lot is Psalm 46, 1-3. And maybe someone needs to hear this as well. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea. Though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging, He is available to help. God with us. In Matthew 1:23, it repeats what Isaiah said. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means, if you know it, say it with me, God with us. He came. He hurt. He was betrayed. He experienced the death of a loved one. He himself experienced death for us and out of love. And so today, I know it's Christmas. We should be shiny happy. I know. But if you're not in the valley of Baca, of weeping, you have been through the valley of weeping and come across to the other side. Or you might face, and sometime in the future, that valley, because no one is exempt. And I'm here to tell you that there is hope. God is with you. God is for you. And God can help you, whatever you're going through right now. And so this morning, I want to close by playing a song by, I forgot his word. Torrin Wells. Yes, how could I forget? And, you know, it's the holidays. I know, but we don't have to be fake. If you're going through a valley right now, we're here to pray with you. We're here to accompany you. This is a house of healing. We want to be here with you. If you have a friend, a family member going through a valley of weeping, come and let us intercede on their behalf for healing, for hope, for light to shine in that dark valley. That's why we come here, to find healing in the hands of the one who loves us most. And so let's listen to this song and read the lyrics there, because he's saying what I feel every day after this second rebirth. I became a Christian in 7th grade, but I got to live a new life after this experience. I don't know what it is. If it's a broken relationship, if it's a difficult health condition, all I can tell you is you're not alone. God is with you. We want to be with you. We want to support you. We're here for you. You came here today on purpose for a reason, to hear that God is the God when things are good and the God when things aren't great. And so we're going to invite anybody who is going through the valley, knows somebody who's going through the valley and wants to intercede, to come up to the altar, and we're going to pray. And we're going to ask that glimmers of hope, of light, come to their heart and to their eyes. The worship team is going to be singing and worshiping, and I hope you also worship with them. We'll be at the altar. Don't leave here without us at least being able to let you know we're with you as you're walking through your valley, and you're not alone.